Frank Sinatra stopped mid-song. The band played two more bars before trailing off into confused silence. 1,200 people in the Copa Room held their breath. And in the front row, Sam Giancana wasn't clapping. He wasn't smiling either, he was just staring. To understand what happened that night and to understand why Frank Sinatra did something that should have gotten him killed, you need to go back 3 days. 3 days that would test the limits of power, loyalty, and the thin line between respect and fear. The message arrived at 2 a.m. Frank was in his suite at the Sands Hotel, a glass of Jack Daniels in one hand, a cigarette burning in the other. The knock on the door was soft, almost apologetic. Jilly Rizzo opened it. The man standing in the hallway was small, forgettable, the kind of face you'd walk past on the street without a second glance. But Jilly knew better. He'd seen this man before. He was one of Sam's. "Mr. Sinatra." The messenger's voice was flat, rehearsed. "Mr. Giancana requests your presence at dinner. Tomorrow night, the Stardust, 9 o'clock. Jilly's hand tightened on the doorframe. Frank didn't move, didn't look up from his drink. "Tell Sam I'm busy." The messenger blinked. Once. Twice. Like he wasn't sure he'd heard correctly. "Mr. Sinatra, I don't think you understand." "No." Frank's voice was quiet, calm. The kind of calm that made Jilly's stomach drop. "I understand perfectly. Tell Sam I'll see him when I see him. Now get out of my sight before I forget we're friends." The messenger left without another word. Jilly closed the door. His hands were shaking. "Frank." He kept his voice low, controlled. "Do you know what you just did?" Frank took a long drag of his cigarette, watched the smoke curl toward the ceiling. "Yeah, Jilly, I know exactly what I did." But what Frank didn't know, what nobody in that hotel knew, was that Sam Giancana hadn't come to Las Vegas to ask for a favor. He'd come to collect, to understand Sam. "Giancana, you need to understand what Chicago meant in 1962. Chicago wasn't just a city, it was an empire. And Sam Giancana sat at the top of it like a king on a throne made of blood and concrete. He was a small man, maybe 5'8" on a good day, 160 pounds soaking wet, but he carried himself like he was 7 feet tall. When Sam Giancana walked into a room, the temperature dropped 10 degrees. His eyes were the thing people remembered most. Dead eyes, shark eyes. The eyes of a man who had ordered deaths before breakfast and slept soundly that same night. Sam had started as a wheelman for Al Capone. By the time he was 40, he ran the entire Chicago outfit. Politicians answered to him. Judges called him Sir. The FBI had a file on him 3 inches thick, and they couldn't touch him. But Sam's real power wasn't violence. It was patience. Sam Giancana never forgot a favor, never forgot a debt, and he never, ever forgot a slight. 3 years earlier, Frank Sinatra had asked Sam for help. The 1960 election. John F. Kennedy needed Illinois to win the presidency. Sam delivered it. Union votes, mob money, whatever it took. Kennedy won by a margin so thin you could see through it. And now Bobby Kennedy, the president's brother, was waging war on organized crime. Wiretaps, investigations, grand juries. Sam's name was on every list. Sam had done his part. He'd delivered the presidency. Now it was time for the Sinatras and the Kennedys to deliver theirs. The phone rang at 4 a.m. Frank was asleep, or trying to be. Ava was in his dreams again, always Ava, even now, even after everything. And the ringing tore through the image like a knife through silk. He grabbed the receiver. "What?" "Frank?" The voice on the other end was familiar. Johnny Formosa, one of Sam's lieutenants. "Sam's disappointed you couldn't make dinner." Frank sat up, rubbed his eyes. "Johnny, it's 4 in the goddamn morning. Sam doesn't sleep much these days, too many. Things on his mind." A pause. Loaded. Heavy. "He wants to see you, Frank. Tomorrow. The Stardust. Same time. He's asking nicely." Frank's jaw tightened. "And if I say no again?" The silence on the other end stretched for 5 seconds. 10. When Johnny spoke again, his voice had changed. Colder. Harder. Then he stops asking. The line went dead. Frank sat in the darkness for a long time. The neon glow of the Vegas Strip bled through the curtains, painting the room in shades of red and gold. He reached for the bottle on the nightstand. It was going to be a long night. "You have to go." Jilly Rizzo stood in the middle of Frank's suite, arms crossed, face pale. He'd been with Frank for 15 years, bodyguard, driver, friend. He'd seen Frank face down studio executives, racist cops, jealous husbands. He'd never seen him face down Sam Giancana. "Frank, I'm begging you, just take the meeting, 5 minutes, shake his hand, see what he wants." Frank was standing at the window, looking out, at the desert. The sun was just coming up, turning the sand from black to gold. "You know what he wants, Jilly." "So give it to him." Frank turned, his eyes were bloodshot, tired, but underneath the exhaustion, something else burned, something cold. "I can't." "Why?" "Because if I go to Sam now, if I crawl to him like everyone else, then I'm not Frank Sinatra anymore. I'm just another guy who owes him something." Jilly shook his head. "Frank, with respect, you already owe him something. We all do. That's how this works." "Not for me." Frank's voice was quiet, final. "Not anymore." He walked to the bar, poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed one to Jilly. "Tonight's my show, the Copa Room, 8 o'clock. Sam wants to see me? He can buy a ticket like everyone else." Jilly stared at him. "You're going to make Sam Giancana sit in the audience?" Frank raised his glass. "Front row." The Copa Room at the Sands was the most famous showroom in Las Vegas. 1,200 seats, crystal, chandeliers, red velvet everywhere. When the lights went down and the spotlight came up, it felt like the whole world disappeared and there was nothing left but the stage and the voice and the music. That night, every seat was full. Senators, movie stars, businessmen with more money than God. They'd all come to see Frank Sinatra, the voice, the chairman of the board, the man who'd crawled back from the grave and conquered Hollywood, conquered the music industry, conquered everything. But there was only one person Frank was looking at when he walked on stage. Sam Giancana, front row, center seat. He was wearing a charcoal suit, Italian, expensive. His hands were folded in his lap. His face was expressionless. He didn't clap when Frank appeared. He didn't smile. He just watched. The show started like any other. Frank opened with "Come Fly With Me." Easy, confident. The crowd was with him from the first note. He moved through "I've Got You Under My Skin" and the women in the audience. Practically melted. But something was different tonight. Frank could feel it. A tension in the air. An electricity that had nothing to do with the music. Every few minutes his eyes drifted back to Sam. Still watching. Still waiting. Halfway through the set, Frank transitioned into "The Lady is a Tramp." The band was tight. The sound was perfect. The crowd was eating out of his hand. And then he saw Sam lean forward, just slightly, just enough. Sam raised one finger, a small gesture, almost invisible. But Frank saw it, and Frank stopped singing. The band played 2 more bars before they realized something was wrong. The trumpets trailed off. The drums faded. The bass went silent. 1,200 people stared at the stage in confusion. Frank Sinatra was standing at the microphone, not moving, not speaking, just looking at the front row, at Sam Giancana. The silence was absolute. You could hear the ice shifting in someone's drink 3 tables back. Sam's face hadn't changed. Still, expressionless. Still patient. He'd made his point. The finger, the gesture. "Stop singing. Come talk to me. Now." Everyone in that room knew what it meant. Everyone understood. Everyone except Frank Sinatra. "Sam," Frank's voice carried through the microphone. Clear, calm. Loud enough for every person in the room to hear. Sam's eyes narrowed, just slightly. "You got something you want to say to me?" The gasp that went through the room was audible. 1,200 people all thinking the same thing. He's dead. Frank Sinatra is dead. Nobody talked to Sam Giancana like that. Nobody. Sam didn't move, didn't blink. For 5 seconds, the longest 5 seconds of Frank's life, the 2 men just stared at each other. Then Sam smiled. A cold smile. A reptilian smile. The smile of a man who was deciding whether to be amused or offended. "Just enjoying the show, Frank." His voice was soft, controlled. "Keep singing." Frank didn't break eye contact. "Then stop staring at me like I owe you." "Money, it's distracting." Another gasp. Louder this time. Someone in the back actually laughed. A nervous, disbelieving laugh that was cut short immediately. Sam's smile didn't waver. For a moment, nobody breathed. Then Sam Giancana did something nobody expected. He laughed. A real laugh. Genuine. the kind of laugh that came from somewhere deep in the chest. "You got balls, Sinatra." He shook his head slowly. "I always liked that about you." Frank held the stare for one more second. Two. Then he turned back to the microphone. "Hit it, boys." The band launched into My Way, and Frank Sinatra sang like nothing had happened. The knock came at 11:47 p.m. Frank was alone in his dressing room. Jilly had wanted to stay, but Frank had sent him away. Whatever was coming, he wanted to face it alone. "Come in." The door opened. Sam Giancana walked in like he owned the place, because in a way he did. He closed the door behind him, looked around the room, took in the whiskey bottles, the photographs on the wall, the tuxedo hanging on the back of the door. "Nice place." Frank didn't get up. "You want a drink?" "Sure." Frank poured 2 glasses, slid one across the dressing table. Sam picked it up, swirled the liquid, watched the light play through the amber. "That was cute, what you did out there." Frank shrugged. "I don't like being interrupted." "Nobody interrupts you, Frank. You know that." Sam took a sip. "I was just reminding you." "Of what?" Sam set down the glass. When he looked up, his eyes were different. Harder. The humor was gone. "Of who your friends are." The silence stretched between them like a wire pulled too tight. "I know who my friends are, Sam." "Do you?" Sam leaned forward. "Because your friend in Washington, the one we put there, his brother is trying to destroy me. Wiretaps, surveillance, grand juries." He paused. "I did my part, Frank. I delivered." Frank's jaw tightened. "That's between you and the Kennedys." "No." Sam's voice was soft. "Deadly. That's between you and me. Because you made promises, Frank. You said you could control them. You said they'd remember their friends. I said I'd talk to them." "And?" Frank looked away. For the first time all night, something flickered across his face. Guilt. Shame. The knowledge that he'd promised something he couldn't deliver. "They don't listen to me, Sam. Not anymore." Sam nodded slowly, like he'd expected this answer. "Then we have a problem." For a long moment, neither man spoke. The sounds of the casino filtered through the walls. Slot machines, laughter, the clink of chips. A whole world of people having fun, oblivious to what was happening in this small room. Finally, Sam stood. "I'm not going to hurt you, Frank." Frank looked up. "I know what you're thinking," Sam continued. "You're thinking, is this it? Is tonight the night?" He shook his head. "It's not. You know why?" "Why?" Sam finished his drink. Set the glass down with a soft click. "Because you're Frank Sinatra, and I don't kill legends." He moved toward the door, stopped with his hand on the knob. "But I want you to remember something." "What's that?" Sam turned, and for just a moment the mask slipped. Frank saw the real Sam Giancana. The killer. The king. The man who had built an empire on bones. Legends die too, when they forget who helped them become legendary. He opened the door. "Good show tonight, Frank. Really, you're the best." And then he was gone. Word of what happened at the Copa Room spread through Las Vegas like wildfire. By the next morning, everyone knew. The bellboys, the dealers, the showgirls, the pit bosses, everyone. Frank Sinatra had looked Sam Giancana in the eye and told him to stop staring. Some people said it was courage, others said it was insanity, but everyone agreed on one thing: they'd never seen anything like it. The story grew with each retelling. In some versions, Frank had pulled a gun. In others, Sam had stood up and applauded. In one particularly creative version, Dean Martin had stepped between them and cracked a joke that diffused the whole thing. None of it was true. The truth was simpler and more complicated. 2 powerful men had tested each other, and somehow, impossibly, they'd both walked away with their dignity intact. Frank's relationship with Sam didn't end that night. If anything, it got more complicated. In the summer of 1963, Sam Giancana visited the Cal Neva Lodge, Frank's casino resort on the Nevada-California border. It was supposed to be a quiet visit, private, off the books. But the Nevada Gaming Control Board was watching. Sam Giancana was on the state's list of excluded persons. His mere presence at a licensed casino was illegal, and someone had tipped off the authorities. Frank lost his gaming license. The Cal Neva Lodge, his dream, his baby, the resort he'd poured millions into, was taken from him. Some people said Sam had set him up. Others said it was the Kennedys finally getting their revenge. Frank never said. He never talked about it publicly. But those who knew him well said something changed after that. A light went out. Sam Giancana was murdered on June 19, 1975, shot 7 times, once in the back of the head, 6 times around the mouth, in his own home, while cooking sausages and peppers. The message was clear. He'd talked too much, or was about to. He was scheduled to testify before a Senate committee about the CIA's attempts to assassinate Fidel Castro, about the connections between the mob, the government, and the Kennedy assassination. He never made it to the hearing. Frank Sinatra was in Palm Springs when he heard the news. He canceled his show that night, told everyone he was sick. But Jilly Rizzo knew the truth. Frank locked himself in his study for 3 hours. When he came out, his eyes were red. He never spoke about Sam Giancana publicly again. Years later, when people asked Frank about that night at the Copa Room, he'd just shrug. "Sam and I understood each other," he'd say. "That's all." But those who were there, those who saw it happen, knew it was more than that. They'd witnessed something rare, something almost impossible, a man who refused to bow, even to the most dangerous person in the room. That was Frank Sinatra. Not just the voice, not just the talent, the absolute, unshakable refusal to be anyone's puppet. Sam Giancana had controlled senators, judges, union bosses, and presidents. But he never controlled Frank Sinatra, and maybe in the end, that's why he respected him. 5 seconds of silence, a cold stare. Keep singing. That was Sam's blessing, and Frank Sinatra sang until the day he died.